Hello and welcome back to another video. Today on the Ants USA Ant channel, I will be showing you guys how I drastically upgraded my Carpenter Ants setup, as well as their reaction to it. So without further ado, let's get started. This is the current setup of my black Carpenter Ants. As of right now, they are housed in a wood nest, which is inside a 2.5-gallon glass tank. When I looked into the nest, this is what I saw. It was good to see that the colony was doing well. If you didn't already notice, here is the queen. She is the single most important ant in the colony because she lays all the eggs, which keeps the colony going. Here you can see this worker foraging for food. Something I really like about this species of ant is that they are large and forage on their own. As you can see here, I have put glue on all of the ventilation holes. This is because the ants were using them to get out, and in alarmingly high numbers. I would find a stray worker running around on my desk much too frequently for me not to take any action. These small pieces of clay scattered across the ground in their setup were from the original plugs I had installed to keep the ants in, which they simply dug out in order to escape. As a result, I had to glue these ventilation holes shut. The only problem with this was that the holes no longer served their intended purpose, and the air inside the enclosure started to become quite stagnant. So I decided that the colony deserved a major upgrade to their setup. To accomplish this, I would be needing this custom-made Outworld. This time I made sure that this new space would be completely escape-proof. The lid of this new Outworld has a fine mesh, which will be great for ventilation. Besides featuring a completely removable lid, the Outworld also has a smaller lid, which can be used to simply drop in food without having to remove the main lid. Another great thing about this Outworld is that it has connection ports on the outside. This means I can keep the colony's nest on the outside of their foraging area, which would allow for better observation. Now, all that is left to do is to create a natural environment for the ants, and let them explore it. The first step in creating this new space is to add a layer of gravel, which soil, plants, and other decor will be added on top of later. Done. And after working on the rest of the Outworld for about 30 minutes, I was left with this. Let me show you around. Over on this side of the Outworld, we have a wet mossy area, which I am sure the ants will love. While designing this space, I made sure not to make the soil very deep, so the ants don't try to move in. More towards the drier side of the Outworld, I placed these twigs for the ants to climb on. And finally, on the right side, we have this rocky outcrop for a humidity gradient. Now on to connecting the ants. As you can see, I connected some tubing to one of the ports, and simply plugged up the second, as we will not be needing it right now. I would soon be connecting the colony's nest to this tube. But first, I captured all of the workers in the colony's current Outworld who were foraging. I would simply place them into the new Outworld afterwards, connecting the colony's nest to the new Outworld. Done. As you can see, the commotion had spooked the ants a bit, but it shouldn't take very long for them to calm down. So they feel more at home in the dark, I placed these red filters over the nest. Ants can't see red light, so they think that they are in complete darkness, while we can still observe them. Next, I placed this dead cricket into the Outworld so the ants would find it when they come out of the nest. Little did I know, they were not going to do this quickly at all. A few minutes later, the colony inside the nest had calmed down. Despite this, they were not trying to come out of the nest entrance, and didn't look like they were going to anytime soon. So in the meantime, I decided to place in the stragglers from the old Outworld, who upon entry immediately panicked and started running around. Eventually though, they calmed down and started exploring this new space. They were already climbing the twigs. This was the very first naturalistic environment the ants had ever been in, so there was no surprise in them being excited. This ant was climbing all over the twigs, which was great to see. I had placed in these twigs so that the ants could climb them instead of the sides of the outworld and try to get out. As you can see here, these two ants are communicating some information about this new space. This ant here decided to take a nap. Worker ants take hundreds of short little naps a day instead of sleeping, as this is more efficient. Here you can see these ants doing the same. Finally, after a few hours of being connected to the outworld, a worker came running down the tube leading into the new foraging area and entered the outworld. As the worker entered the outworld, she started exploring it with great interest. While exploring, the worker almost came into contact with one of its nestmates before turning back around and heading the opposite direction. The ant then started to climb the mosses in the moist side of the outworld. After she was done exploring, the worker went back to the nest to inform the rest of the colony. As this was happening, two other workers were going over to check it out for themselves. The ants were immediately intrigued by this naturalistic space and started to explore it. After gathering enough information, they started to make their way back to the nest. More and more ants were now starting to go into the outworld. And in no time, a small trail had formed. At this point, there were a substantial number of ants foraging in the new outworld, and a lot more on the way. The ants inside the nest were now also excited, and were preparing to mobilize. There was now a steady trail of workers entering the outworld. More and more ants wanted to see it for themselves. Eventually, the cricket was found. The worker who found it immediately started to feed. But to my surprise, after only a few seconds, the ant simply walked away without looking very excited, before coming back to continue eating the cricket. And then just simply leaving again. The colony's trail was now at full force, as ants could be seen traveling up and down the tube at all times. It seems the ants are particularly interested in the mesh at the back of the outworld, which is used to make an air current. The reason for this is likely that this too was new to them, as in their last setup, there was no airflow. The next day, the cricket had still not been touched. From this, I had to conclude that the colony was full, at least for the time being. But regardless, the ants really liked this new naturalistic foraging area. As we near the end of this video, I would like to thank all of you watching, and I would really appreciate if you would like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one.